Welcome. I'm Jolan Velencei, Associate Professor at Keleti Faculty of Business and Management at Óbuda University. In this presentation, I will show you how concept maps and knowledge visualization can be used in teaching and learning and well. By visualizing relations between key concepts, you will encounter a number of new concepts that your cognitive system can comfortably receive. The concept maps, namely visualization, knowledge visualization, allow you to progress at your own pace and define your personal learning path. To facilitate the learning process, good teachers and mixed content are required. At an age when attention has become a scarce resource, the students might wander to other disciplines instead of acquiring in-depth knowledge of one discipline. Thus, teaching begins according to Charles Handy, who is the most influential thinker in domain management. The teaching begins to resemble cricket, where lots of gates have to be passed through while paying attention to complicated rules that make the game even more difficult. It is impossible to attend college and learn at the same time. This is a graffiti, and it is by an unknown author. However, Gabriel Garcia Marquez gave a similar explanation to his worried parents. He had left college after 2 years to finally begin his studies. The more notes I took, the worse results I had, said one of my students. When taking notes, most students use only one color, and the multitude of lines on the paper become boring eventually. The great thinkers, Leonardo da Vinci, for example, would always draw. But let's just think of today's influential business thinkers, powerful thinkers, whose performances are accompanied by only a few pictures, but we will remember them for a long time, since they revive the spoken information, but sometimes the tone and gestures too. A picture is worth 1,000 words, says the old Chinese proverb. Recalling a single image is easier, which then revives the concepts connected to it. Knowledge conveyed via images, visualization, is closer to people than just the written word. So, let's take how can we visualize our knowledge. Each sequential, consecutive presentation contradicts thinking based on free association. If you read the word cat and close your eyes, what do you see? Few people see the letters C-A-T. Everyone sees a picture, then he can. If I like this animal, I will probably picture a purring kitten, whereas if I do not, the image of a beast extending its claws feels slow in front of my eyes. The three-letter picture will bring about different associations for different people. So, that something should inspire people, it has to be very spectacular, convincing, and special. This is equally true of a film, book, or any other performance. The essence is the same. It should captivate our attention. Learning by heart and reproducing others' knowledge was considered worthless in Oxford, wrote Charles Handy, a doyen of influential thinkers. What one remembers out of fear is soon forgotten. Everyone makes use of new knowledge in a particular way. New concepts are given a different sense-making by each person, depending on the existing conceptual frame. Concept maps promote the development of a new conceptual framework at the same time the abandonment of usual sense makings and behaviors. This learning process is smoother, more accessible for beginners, and as age progresses, it becomes more and more difficult. This may be true as experienced practitioners' conceptual framework is more elaborate and closed, which makes reframing harder. During one of my lectures, a student in his 40s remarked, "We already have things to forget." If there is some kind of disruption in a process, it is dangerous to remove only the one event which caused the confusion. The whole of it should be reconsidered. The following story helps to understand. Once upon a time, there was a carpet merchant who noticed one day that in the middle of his most beautiful carpet there is a protrusion. He stepped on the protrusion to smooth it, and he succeeded. But the protrusion reappeared not far from the original location. Once again, he jumped on the protrusion, which disappeared, but only for a moment, then instantly reappeared in a new place. The carpet dealer was now getting desperate. He hopped on, smoothed, flattened the rug until finally he lifted a corner of the carpet from where an enraged snake slid out. This story was written, it's a book, the author was Zengye. His efforts to remove the protrusion that caused confusion were ineffective on the entire order of the carpet. Instead of removing only one disturbing element, like in this example, one has to look behind the process. How can we know what a learner knows if we do not only expect him to reproduce the syllabus, but are also curious about how new concepts altered conceptual frame? In this case, the questions, ideas, and interactions that emerge in learners get more space. The development of the new conceptual frame depends on our cognitive schemes, which become richer and more sophisticated during the learning process. According to constructivism, during the learning process, new concepts are not imprinted in our minds like on a blank sheet of paper, but rather our existing schemes determine the new concepts we take on and the conceptual framework we build from them. The learning process is therefore a personal construct. For example, if I explain the concept of tacit knowledge, the students will reconstruct the information as personal knowledge in different ways. They inherently differ in what they pay attention to and what they turn a deaf ear to. And they will also differ in the way in which they incorporate the new concept into their existing conceptual frameworks. For example, their existing system of pattern. Existing knowledge is therefore critical to learning process. May I say, we can only really learn and interpret what we have corresponding schemes for. Jerome Brunner, a psychologist who lived for 100 years, believed that when a student began to learn new concepts, he or she needed active support from his or her teachers. We can say that he or she depends on this support, but as their thinking becomes more and more independent from that of their teachers, And as they learn more and more new things, this support gradually fades away. This form of interaction reminds one of scaffolding used at construction sites. The scaffolding supports the construction, and once the work is completed, the scaffolding is gradually taken down. The scaffolding is especially exciting as a metaphor, and is it perfectly represents the decrease in students' choices and the way in which they become able to focus on the knowledge they need. Brunner's idea of scaffolding may be used in teaching people of all ages, since it helps students to discover relationships between the elements of knowledge. Perhaps the most important is that the teacher should give students the opportunity to constantly learn new things. This requires increased effort and attention as such a scaffolding is to be built, which allows every student to get on. The teacher might often have to improvise for this, and, what is more, he might need to call on some cleverer students for help. This way, the teacher also becomes part of the learning process. If the scaffolding is safe and convenient to step on, it allows recognition of those who have already become able to learn independently. At the same time, is it important to free students from the scaffolding or the compulsory syllabus in order to enable them to wander about freely? Constructivist pedagogy recognizes the legitimacy of reproductive tasks as preparing students for well-structured task solution and routine operations is often needed. Still, this science appreciates more the learning process, which allows independence, originality, activation of imagination, and setting of daring hypotheses. In light of the above, the learning process may also be considered a process of mutual accommodation. On one hand, students adapt to the learning environment created by the teacher. On the other hand, the teacher also adapts to the student's behavior, paying attention to their existing conceptual framework. If the teacher sees cabbage heads in the benches and delivers the same topic to everyone, he has no chance of really touching the students in his care. At school, in art class of at school in art class, one of my favorite occupations was mashup production. Pictures cut out from newspapers, drawings, and press flowers were put next to each other in a way that they ended up creating new, unplanned sense makings. So, this technique started to be used from the beginning of the 20th century in arts by compiling existing pictures and drawings into a new unit. Later, this process became indispensable in cinematography since new film clips can be produced by cutting together previously made recordings. Musical montages appeared towards the end of the 20th century when different blending techniques became available. From the beginning of the 21st century, the montage technique appeared in software development, which allowed the emergence of new applications by compiling existing softwares and web providers. Let's think of the Google Map, on which, beside the route, shops, gas stations, or even nearby pubs can be found. The term mashup has numerous meanings, but their essence is the same. It is a new content that is created by combining one or more sources and allows new connections to be seen. Mixed contents can develop essential skills in the 21st century. These include skills such as lifelong learning and innovation, critical thinking and interdisciplinary problem solving, communication, and teamwork. Those mashups which carry different maps, new items, video and audio content too, are especially suitable for this purpose. Richard Meyer was a pioneer of the use of multimedia in learning. His book first published in 21. His researches have shown that the simultaneous operation of cognitive channels, parallel and balanced involvement of different sensory organs, makes the acquirement of new knowledge a pleasant experience. The use of media allows us to simultaneously see, hear, and feel the syllabus. Mashups support team building if they create a reflective and non-simultaneous, still joint learning process. If we accept that the learning process is a process of mutual accommodation for both teachers and students, the latter can also create mashups in a new context which support their own learning process. With this, such up-to-date skills and abilities are developed, which are essential nowadays when teamwork and reaching consensus are especially important. The dynamic, interactive character of mashups, which are also supportive of participation, may support classroom lessons where students are active participants in the learning process, while teachers are given new and different possibilities for teaching. From these mashup contents, everyone may select and deal with what they truly need. The rest of the contents are optionally available to students. This new learning process is more and more loosely structured. It meets those passionate students' needs in space, time, and tools who desire new knowledge. Teaching should provide students with the opportunity of climbing higher and higher on the scaffolding built by teachers in accordance with their individual preferences and levels of knowledge. Mashup content offers an opportunity for informal learning. However, students who are used to formal learning need to learn this as well. Now let's see what is the different formal and informal learning. So let's see what is the difference between formal and informal learning. Formal learning, usually in the high school and secondary school as well, you have a lot of experience in formal learning. Formal learning is like a walk through the zoo. Animals are separated from each other in their cages, and each cage has a description of the animal that lives there, just like in the classical textbook. Informal learning is like a walk in the savannah. The animals run around in confusion, and sometimes we pay attention to one thing, sometimes to something else, just like when we browse the internet or participate in an online course. During the online course, we can wander about as much as we like, we can start looking around anywhere, and we can choose from the mix, may I say mashup content, whatever attracts our attention at that particular moment. It is highly recommended that the teacher make sure that all topics have multiple content elements such as comic books, video presentation, short reading, book recommendations, and links when deciding on the mashup content of an online course. These content items present one aspect of the given topic. The link between them can be made via mental work. Passionate students may place the mixed content into a realistic context, may discover problems, and create exploratory solutions. In this informal learning process, the ability of thinking in a system can be developed while students easily acquire a complex body of knowledge. Many people use a small chalkboard to classify common knowledge, to store concepts in a way that these can be achieved quickly. The replacement, movement of sticky notes on it, even just for fun, leads to chaos. The new taxonomy, new relations between the sticky notes become unrecognizable. What is the point of lots of pieces of paper? Continuously change, quickly available, organized knowledge at one particular moment. Concepts which capture the objective, well-structured world are ordered by convention into a fixed hierarchy. For example, creature, animal, bird, sparrow. Confusion is immediately noticeable when the hierarchy is decomposed. Creature, sparrow, bird, animal. Former logic is valid for rules created in permanent hierarchies, and it is immediately noticeable if one deviates from it. In reality, however, the simply described, well-structured hierarchy of concepts must be abandoned. Nevertheless, the main problem is not the fact that this hierarchy becomes very chaotic, but if a concept proves to be more advanced, more general than another concept, and that then a third one, and so on, until an even lower level concept proves to be more general in some ways than the first one. For visualization of old and new concepts, systematic thinking is needed. The principle of systematic thinking is a shift in thinking that concentrates on intricate interactions rather than on linear cause-effect chains, and on processes of change rather than on separate frozen frames in a film. According to Ludwig von Bertalanffy, related elements result in a system. In order to be able to manage a system, we have to draw the boundaries. The elements that have a strong effect on each other are within the system, while the others remain outside. If we accept this, we always deal with systems. There is no standard comprehensive theory of systems. The sections do not know the whole, and the whole does not know its parts either. We may observe several features of the system that some systems share, others do not. Systems may be classified based on each, but I could also say that we do not categorize systems, but rather our knowledge about them. How do we describe a system? This depends on what we see, and what we see does not, in the least, depend on what it is like. Classification depends on what we are like. Each sequential consecutive presentation contradicts the human mind. Based on Joseph Novak's view, existing knowledge concepts can be represented on a concept map rather than in a sequential order, that is, we can visualize them. This helps to capture the relationships between concepts, who are linked together like ramified associations. It is impossible to determine the succession of background knowledge concepts as there are diverse relations between them. During visualization, some of the ramifications may grow, but some will disappear. When drawing a concept map, we are rethinking and reinterpreting the background knowledge concepts. Making a concept map means the exploration, visualization, and organization of knowledge that can be used in several fields. Concept maps may be expanded with the places of occurrence following taxonomy and visualization of concepts. Concept maps can be very useful in a larger organization since we cannot know what people might know. A concept map expanded with places of occurrence also claims the importance of knowledge. People of great knowledge might be known, however, sharing of knowledge is rewarded, not the possession of knowledge. What is the map necessary for? It helps us get to the desired location without getting lost, and all this in the shortest possible time. If we want to find a way to the city, we use the map. But sometimes we are taken by surprise. Some routes have changed, new highways have been built. We came to prefer updated, downloadable maps that give route suggestions as well to nicely designed folding maps. The map will show the way to the cities, but will not give suggestions about what to do. We can easily find our way to a well-known city without a map, and we know what we can ask our close acquaintance. If we put this knowledge together and arrange it, and if there were such a big car which we all could fit into, we could go to all the cities in the world without a map. The electronic map may quickly be browsed, and it is enough to only zoom in the unknown routes. It can be modified more frequently than its printed version. Okay, the next slide, let's see how can we organize a concept map? How can we draw